Hi, I'm Luther Kruger, Big Blue Sun Museum of Solar Cooking, based out of Minneapolis, and I'm here with Susan Rigali in, is it Reseda? It's part of Los Angeles, city of Los Angeles. Beautiful sunny day, palm trees, which we don't get in Minneapolis. I see they actually can block a little bit of sun, but a beautiful day, and Susan's going to show me a whole lot of stuff she's doing with solar energy, solar drying, solar cooking, and but specifically, there's, like, I always have 3 questions. And I'm going to add a 4th because we're villager owners, and so we'll talk about that toward the end. But the first one is, how did you discover solar energy in any way, shape, or form, and then specifically solar cooking? And then kind of where are things now with how you're using solar, especially solar cooking, but anything else? And then where do you see the future for your own endeavors, or how to promote it and so forth? So how did you get into solar?
So, 1980, I lived in the Sahara National Forest outside of Tucson, and it was very hot in the summer, and there was that old saying, you could so hot you could fry an egg.
Yep, you probably could.
So I started trying then,
Yeah.
and I could.
Yes.
So after that, a lot of things happened, jobs, but I still toyed around with making small devices, and it was like a hobby.
Sure.
And still is. And then basically, when I saw the sun oven, that was around 2000, 2003.
Sure.
I got very interested in alternate forms of cooking. I think we were kind of on an upswing of actually paying attention to clean water and clean air. And
Yes.
so I thought, why not? Let's try it. And I had done several big shows, the Emmys and the conventions, and so I had a little extra money in my pocket, and I said, I'm gonna get the sun oven. The first year, that was in 2006, and the first year I took it out to farmers markets and basically maybe a little bit educate people
Sure.
on alternate sources of energy, and also it was fun. They play music and we're cooking.
There we go.
So yeah, got some interest, and then some kind of almost like people didn't want their security to go away, or in other words, some people saw it as a little bit like foolish, which that went off my back because
Yeah.
So
Hello. Let's see. How often have I been doing
so
this?
on my best day, I did 2,400 and some cookies at the.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
sure.
I always try to factor in my mind too, being an entrepreneur, like, okay, so if you make this many, how much can you make, and is it worth the time, and can you actually hire somebody to help you setting up and things like that. And because the first couple months I just did it on my own.
Sure. No, this
Pretty
is just
tough.
the sun oven, or is this all
That's
the
the
villager?
sun oven.
The villager.
That's a villager.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
No, I've never taken these out. I've used them. Okay, so when I made the solar locket down in Newport Beach, because I do everything from scratch, I don't show up with everything mixed up and throw it in the oven. I'm there grating the potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
They're going in here and cooking great as I grated them.
Sure.
And grated onions, and then the eggs. And so you saw, like, when I pulled that out of the oven, it was browned, right? Which
Yep.
is something we look for when solar cooking. So I take the pan and put oil on that and set it in there and get it really hot. And then I just put the hot potatoes and everything over the top of that. And then I got there at noon, and I think it was around 2:30, 3 o'clock that we had the world's largest solar locket.
Wow.
And I just inverted it, flipped it over, stuck it back in the oven. It was browned.
Mhm.
And then, so yeah, it was, I think people were impressed by that. Well, we're at a stage right now where we need everything. I recognize that too. It's, but I've seen a lot of new innovation coming around, from home heaters to water heaters, and
Sure.
and so it's possible, especially us kind of in the southern hemisphere, and as far as being able to process food, dehydrate food, cook food, clean water, and keep warm.
Yes.
Why not?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it definitely has the potential for all those things, even in cold climates. My son went to meet Paul in Chicago, and it was freezing cold out and they were cooking.
Sure, sure.
And that has nothing, as long as there's insulation like this. This dehydrator here is not insulated at all because I want airflow in it. It gets about 170 to 200 degrees,
Yeah.
and that's perfect for dehydrating and not losing a lot of nutritional value at the same time.
Sure. So you got cookers and you got a dehydrator. Let's see, you had a nice little parabolic dish here.
That's from Clear Dome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, clear, sure.
I used to have he used to have funnel cookers too.
Uh-huh.
So I did the solar convention in 2008 down in San Diego.
Okay.
And I took everything out. They kind of labeled me a volunteer, but I had a whole kitchen set up. And one after another, people came up to me and said, "Where do I get this?"
Right.
And it's really hard to find. I mean, I want to tell people, you can kind of make these things, but not everybody has the will or the tools to
Sure.
to get involved. He's the one that got me involved with doing the solar convention down in San Diego. And at the time, I was using tube cookers too, ones that I made.
Vacuum tube?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So so I think he was kind of impressed with that. We met up in San Diego anyway, and we exchanged what we're doing. And I think that would be really helpful. It's great what you're doing, because if everybody can kind of look in on what everybody else is doing, we got to come up with a better idea then. I mean, not that everybody doesn't have brilliant ideas in the first place, but practical ideas that maybe possibly industry or food manufacturers or I've got cookbooks dating back 100 to so many years ago, and at the time, especially during Depression years and stuff, there was powdered milk and powdered eggs, and so dehydrating was a big deal in those days, and I could use those cookbooks if I can figure it out.
Yeah.
The old cookbooks are really, for me, I love them because it's one paragraph and minimal amount of ingredients.
Yeah.
So you're
sometimes
done.
not even quite the measurements, right? I mean, so you have to figure out what.
When I was at the studios, I went. Everything was 2, 4, 6, 8. I had to keep my mind clear enough to keep moving fast enough to. Sometimes they'd call me at 11 o'clock in the morning and say, "Can you feed 200 people at 1 o'clock?"
Yeah.
So it was crazy. That was like my nightmare, and then it actually happened.
Yeah.
So.
Well, now we gotta position the cameras to get a good shot of this.
Okay.
Because this is except for the villager, which of course I'm obsessed with figuring out all that. We're talk about this.
Okay.
So, what the heck is this?
So this is a solar hot dog cart, and I kind of, after not being able to use the villager, I was kind of mad that, we're not allowed to do something that we. So I designed this one to be totally NSF approved.
Okay.
Everything's made with food grade stainless steel, and I used a charcoal. I made a charcoal paint with again low grade heating oil, and coated the pans with that. And you can see this is where the hot dogs go in, and this is where they come out. So one of the big problems I have with the solar ovens is you have to hurry up and open the door and shut the door, or you lose a lot of heat. Well, with this, I really wasn't losing heat because I would put 6 hot dogs on here.
Oh, wow, right.
And I would put them in here.
Sure.
And then when this reached 160 degrees, I would push them through.
Okay.
So, and then they land through here and come out down here. And I also wanted to make this. This also is my hot water heater. This lays up here and heats water. So there's a sink on the side here. I don't have it hooked up. There's my wastewater tank.
Okay.
So you could actually wash hands. I also had Sani wipes and mustard, ketchup, and relish in individual packages, and my hot dog buns went in the basket. So basically, on my best day with this, I pushed 48 hot dogs through, and I thought, okay, $5 each. That's $240.
Yeah, that's right.
I can work when I want to.
If you can charge $6-7 for a latte, why not $5 for a hot, or $10 for a hot dog at Wrigley Field?
$5 for the hot dog and $1 for the show.
Yes. Yeah. And it's totally green pedal power.
So the bike is a Chinese bike, and this used to be a taxi seat on the back.
Oh, sure.
And I had this made at a metal shop, so it would fit this. And it can be, you can ride it with this out as long as you're not in a really windy area. So yeah, I've taken this around too. I went up to San Jose in 2008 with Green for All,
Okay.
which was during the Obama administration, but under Van Jones' group. It was called Green for All. So they asked me, why did you do a hot dog? Well, hot dogs are fully cooked. This, even if you're not in full sun, is gonna. This is a insulated carrier, and then I just had it all built out with stainless, and did the body and the drawers and stuff. So yeah, I mean, this can stay hot for like 3-4 hours after the food actually cooks.
Sure. Well,
this is just another, this here is something that I heat up really hot and do for a stir fry. Again, charcoal based. Because I cook these coatings on so well, it's no different than putting food on your barbecue.
yep. So this is basically a barbecue with the box.
That's right. And the other thing I wanted to say about any of my ovens that I use, if you're the ideal thing to do, and I'm sure a lot of people that solar cook know this, is to make small portions, because they cook so much faster. When I was doing weddings with the Sun Oven, everything was like hors d'oeuvre shaped, so sheet pans could just go one after the other, and I wasn't wasting any time on cooking 6 or 8 hours on a whatever, a leg of lamb or something on that order. And luckily most of that, but I did Moroccan Bastilla, and I did phyllo pastries, and so it worked almost, well, we all know the Villager is like a 350 to 400 degree oven. On your best day, 400.
Yeah.
But still, if you've got a consistent heat and you're not leaving your oven door open when you're changing out stuff, you can get a pretty consistent
Sure.
use.
Okay.
Okay, you want to go over these guys?
Sure. Let's take a look at that dryer, because that looks like it's got some capacity.
So we need some sun. We need some
That's
sun.
okay. I mean, it's
So I put tomatoes in there yesterday, and then unfortunately we don't have this spinning like crazy.
okay.
I have pictures of this too when it's in use.
Sure. And your website is
Sabersolar.com. I think it's
sabersolar.com.
on my email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so this is solar panel powered.
This thing gets really this forces so much air in here that nothing, no flies or anything can get in here. So this is going kind of in a half circle, and then it's releasing right here.
Okay.
And these are all pans of kitchenware that, basically I just put together for this.
Sure.
So yeah, I would like to, when we get some sun on this, for you to see like exactly how great that
Yep.
was.
So there's been on the Facebook, we talk about solaritis, where you look at something, anything, and you say, how can I turn that into a solar cooker?
Everything in my life is that way. It's not just solar
You're not
cookers.
alone. We are codependent.
Aluminum containers.
Oh,
Well,
sure.
I didn't want the lids. I just
Yeah.
wanted these.
Yes.
So we see these things all the time, whether we're looking or not.
Yep.
Anyway.
Maybe it isn't the melody. Maybe it's
I've got in the garage too a enamel pot. That's a big one. It's like a steamer pot, and it's because it had the where you let the water out from the steamer, like if you're doing clams or something. I hooked that up to a copper pipe too, and had a parabolic trough with that, and then heated oil through that to create a fire. It's been a number of years since I put that together, but it worked. So I guess my quest is to find like what would be like in a commercial kitchen ways to cook. One's a stove, one's a dehydrator, one's an oven, one's a
Sure.
fryer, and I think that might convince people a little more if we can like integrate some of those ideas.
Yeah.
This one's not on center, so it's not, it like cooks over here.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have, I'd heat up one. So I had one here, and I could put them back there. You can see I'm getting this right here.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I would start here, and I would start my egg, and then as soon as it would actually take me the same time I would cook on a stove. So the second one's heating up, so I would take the egg from here and then put it in the second pan, and I could keep going that way.
Oh, sure.
Now this one's hot, and I could go back to this one.
Yeah.
So
You got three fresnel lenses, or just
I
two?
do. Yeah, three.
Three of them.
I'm fascinated at the degree of temperature that
Yeah.
I can get with the Fresnel lens.
Yeah.
And then I have, because when I bought the sun oven, they gave me, gosh, maybe a dozen of those enamel pans.
Yeah.
And they work great in an oven, but the copper seems to get plenty hot enough with the Fresnel lens that, it doesn't need to have an enclosed area, especially in this climate here in the valley
Sure.
when it's
Sure.
warm. But yeah, it's just the three Fresnel lenses on a piece of PVC, and that's an old, from my convection oven too.
Mm-hmm.
I had a hard time parting with that oven.
And you can just it's on wheels. So you
Yeah,
can,
everything's on
You can
wheels.
slide it around the face.
And I'm
in
trying
the
to work
pipes.
on, like you'll see some of my pieces on the bottom are from a drum set because
Yeah.
I'm trying to make things lighter as I get older here instead
Sure.
of, yeah. This weighs nothing.
Sure. Well, we'll talk about that one back there. I'm gonna move it.
So this
Over
is,
there.
I probably made this one about 20 years ago. So if you see an elderly lady taking TVs apart on any corner, it's me.
It's you.
So I take the Fresnel lenses, and it seems like the newer TVs, they're not as good as this one because it's
Yep.
about 20 years old. So this one really gets to a high temperature. And I put it, it's on a lighting stand. I was still working at the studios then. And then just, it swings, so, I can move it according to where the sun's at. And basically, I was going to start that pan for our pizza today. I guess we're going to be over this tree in maybe a half hour.
Yeah, any
or so.
second now.
Anyway, yeah, so this is one of the, you can tell by the grooves in that's going to be a better Fresnel lens.
Yeah.
I've tried everything from studio lights, Fresnel lenses to, so yeah, I've worked
Yeah.
quite a bit. And then there's something else I'm working on now where I can actually direct the sun over here or over there instead of having to move everything.
To the mirrors, or the proprietary?
No, it's not proprietary. I just want to make sure that it's something that's, working the
Yeah.
way I'm hoping it's going to. Anyway, I've used it a little bit, and it's hopeful. So some of these Fresnel lenses that's synonymous for them. When I had this, what I was going to say is when I had this with a black slate going across,
Yep.
all the pots I had sitting on there, they were surrounded by like a violet light on the
Yeah.
bottom, and
Yeah.
it heat the rock and the copper at the same time, and seemed to within
Sure.
a half hour I had boiling water. And,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that thing about the end of the world, one time I came home from school and we all had to get under our desks for a nuclear,
Yep.
So I came home from school and I think I was frightened because I said to my mother, "Is it the end of the world?" And she said, "They've been predicting that since the beginning of time."
Yes. Yes.
But here in California with earthquakes, it's necessary. When we had our earthquake in '94, I had enough food for 1,000 people
Yeah.
at the studios.
Yeah.
And second day, when shop wears off, I drove down there. They sent me all the way to South LA, the Jim Gillian Recreation Center, so I did that for a couple of days. So there's So I've asked the city of LA, and I've been in city council, and I said, when we have a database, right?
Yeah.
Business should have to be able to feed the public, so we don't have chaos and
Yeah.
mayhem.
So maybe not the whole world, but a good chunk of it. It kind of ends
Well,
briefly.
I was in Canoga Park living at the time, and in my neighborhood now too. Some people had generators, some people had a radio, some people had stuff for the barbecue. Everybody shared. It actually was pretty civil and worked out. And so when I went down to the studios, there was no power. We opened the doors because there were no windows, and the gas still worked. So we went ahead and cooked and took meals down there.
Sure.
So we got a hot spot right here.
Oh, there we go.
Had this set up with a large piece, which I broke. I'd actually heat up the slate, but what I'm looking for when I'm heating up the copper is this blue light.
Oh yeah.
And once that gets going, I just pour a little bit of oil in the pan, and I'll go get that, and then toss an egg in there. And I'm not quite ready with this one because, let me see where we're focal. This one actually works better than that one. Let's see if I'm light over here. Now, if I really wanted to be impressive, I would go, this one's cold. I would go get one out of the coop and I'd be halfway there, right? I hate the fact of frying an egg too, because that's a pretty easy thing to do, right? But I have pasta and stuff in this one. And I found that when I do them this way, this is too hot to deal with. I don't want to fool some of the people all the time.
That's all right.
I feel like I've been really good company with all the videos you made, no doubt.
Yes.
Too high. I'm not focused enough here. Forward, back and forth. Right. This is one in the works. Do we have an egg fry? I think yeah, we do. Or it's getting there. So, we all know that the darker the food is, the faster it cooks.
Oh my.
And I actually, the copper pan that I used over here, about 2 weeks, I'm sorry I'm not as set up as I should be. It was more than 2 weeks, it was about a month ago. I put this with the Fresnel lens. And I saw in one of your videos that you wanted pizza, right?
Yes.
So I made a really thin crust and turned this over and put it in there.
There we go.
Yeah. And then put the toppings on and went back to the...
Yep.
And then this is another device, because I had this up against that trough that I made there.
Mm-hmm.
And on the bottom side of it, it's got tiny holes. It's a vent piece. And
Oh, yeah.
I got that up just with that trough to like 250 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
So I start painting it again with carbon paint. Okay, we're gonna roll down here. Nothing in my way, right?
Nope.
Out of the way. I wasn't prepared. I have 9 grandkids.
Oh man,
And 2 of them had their birthday on Sunday, so I had 20 people over for dinner.
that'll take over your life in a good way.
And your holidays and everything, right?
Yes, yes.
So, and it's not easy for me to like roll this thing back up, but I do it.
Sure. So it trips at a certain temperature, or it can be set to trip at a.
No, so sometimes come out here, I'm like, what the hell, it hasn't started yet, and then I come back out again, and it's, whirling away.
Mm-hmm.
This is what's gonna sell, is something that's like crockery cooking, that, say a mom who's busy or a man who's busy with his life, and they can actually put their food in it and set it out and come home to dinner.
Yep.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. Make sure you get that
This
in there.
wasn't in the right
Yep.
position. Some people say, what does the sun smell like? I said, it smells sweet.
Yeah.
So yeah, towards winter, it's like all the way down. It kind of even scares me, the weight of it, like my tip or something. But
Sure. Well, so the story of the villager. How did you get it? What's the total story? Going back to.
So, I contacted Paul Munson at Sun Oven and told him I was interested, and we kind of talked back and forth for like a month. And then he said he had one available, and so he sent that out. Not too long after that, I talked to Patricia Ricardo,
Yeah.
and she was telling me about her efforts in Afghanistan. And she kind of let me know that, like, this is, I mean, we see it a little bit like fun too, but this is what saves lives right now. Trying to keep that in mind, but also still wanting to use one myself and actually make money at it.
Yep. Yep.
was all part of the formula of how I wanted to go forward with my business after 2006. Like I said, I lost a position that I had for quite a few 3 decades anyway, and I wanted to change my life and my career and so I moved this here, and I did some events, farmers markets, things like that. And then I started doing weddings here on my property. Everything looks a little different now. It's a farm now. So I've completely changed from kind of being an event caterer to being somebody who's processing food from my garden. And so, yes, there's been a little more metamorphosis, but every time I was not professionally involved with cooking food, I was growing food. And so got involved with Solar Cookers International, would read their site and stuff, and then also saw, I think Elon Musk's brother is a chef, and so this is something I just saw recently. But I think one of the biggest things we need to do as people involved with food is to be able to preserve food. And the best way to do that is by removing the water. Of course, we have to have water in those times that we're going to reconstitute it again. But it could give food security to a lot of people in the world who don't necessarily have it during times of rainy seasons. So for me, it's worked really great. I love dried fruits and vegetables, and it's so easy to make soup if you chop it up and dry it out. And I dry all my herbs. I dry, I said fruit already, right? So yeah, that's mostly what I've been using it for as of late. I still bake bread and do things like that occasionally, but when I first opened the restaurant, a lot of people were amazed that would come in because I was making all the bread. So just like the other caterer, I do like 12 loaves a day. he would say, yeah, it was cooked in the sun oven. People, weren't even aware of what do you mean, Because there's things like sun chips or whatever, and they use PB to run their business and good on for that. But everybody's got, especially with COVID this past year, all the food goes out the door. So yeah, it's been hard to get supplies around that. When are we going to have those? Do you know what I researched? Most kitchens, especially on farms, face the south.
South, yes. Yeah.
So it's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
But here in California, up until our homeless crisis has gotten to the proportion it has, I think we're up to 50,000 people here in just LA.
Yeah.
They used to, like all the stores, Trader Joe's, and they'd have locks on all their dumpsters, so you couldn't dumpster dive. It was a law because then those stores didn't want liability if somebody got into the dumpster to eat the food and somehow exactly. So, but now they're not doing that anymore. They're repurposing.
Yeah.
So that's what we've come to. But I, as a caterer, used to go to Covenant House, which was a teenage spot on Sunset Boulevard because a lot of kids come out to LA. They're going to be get involved with, they don't get involved with drugs, is what they get involved with. And then Victory Outreach is another place. Up until 2001, when we had 9/11, so the studios were open to like all these shelters coming in, picking up leftover food from catering and anything I had going on. And I tried to supply enough food. I would do the Thanksgiving dinners for Boys and Girls Club and anything that had to do with like recycling and repurposing the food. And but after 9/11, people got hyper kind of paranoid in the big spikes with arrows on, and security and, they didn't. So I was kind of part of that because homeless people would come to the door in the morning. And so I'd either give them leftover or sometimes I'd cook them something, and that kind of got to be a security issue also in the studio. Don't get me wrong, there's times that people would come up and I'd give them like an egg sandwich and they'd say, you have salt and pepper, do you have hot sauce? I'd be like, oh my God.
I'm vegan intolerant. Wait a second.
I'm in the Central Valley here, and everybody, you have to look over the fence, but we're really in a densely populated urban area. And every one of these neighbors has every kind of farm animal you can imagine. So I thought, why not?
Yeah.
So I've had chickens, only rabbits for about 5 years, but chickens for ever since I lived here.
Yeah.
They're laying eggs.
I love it.
It's not an easy job. You're making me think of my chickens in the winter here. It doesn't get that cold, right?
Yeah.
But I thought of a parabola too, where I would be able to focus on a metal thing to keep my coop warm.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other ideas out there, but
you got a slab of a cast iron,
Yeah. In 2008, there was again an older gentleman there, and probably in his 80s, right? And he had invented a solar tracker for his, and it was beautiful. I think he had it on something like a flat lazy Susan.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it went by itself. He didn't even have to. I have put tomatoes in here to dry them out before, and if it's a really clear day, it's pretty clear today. I've come back like 4 hours later and they're just black.
Oh no, yeah.
You can burn in these pretty easily.
Yeah.
But the good thing is, really, you can't start a fire.
Right.
That's not possible.
Yeah.
And so what I would suggest to everybody to get a sun oven or a solar oven, I shouldn't say sun oven, to camp with, because we have such problems here in California. And a lot of times they'll say, well, we had a really big fire either 2 years ago, and it was somebody doing what do you do when you want a baby boy or girl? They were trying.
The gender reveal. Yeah.
We have to change our minds about how we operate in the nature. So I knew about all this like starting in the 80s, because when I found out how unpopular it was to even talk about GMO food. My biggest problem with that is, okay, there is a loss in nutrition, and a lot of food that comes in through globalization is irradiated, and so more loss in nutrition. But my biggest problem is intellectual property. You're going to own what took thousands of years
Yeah.
to, no,
Yeah.
that's not right, sorry.
It's like patenting water.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The big interest of mine with solar cooking too
Yeah.
is to try to cut my use as an environmentalist in my profession to using as little as possible. Like if I'm making 8 apple pies, I might start them in there at $4.25 and then bring them all out here
Yes.
at $3.50.
Yeah.
Densely area and everything farm animal. So only rabbits for ever since I was here.
Well, you said you were on a farm. Do you mind?
An easy job.
I've-
Shut up!
That's it. I got enough already. Enough.